Recording in progress.
Welcome, everybody, to the May 21st, 2025 regularly scheduled meeting for the Monterey Peninsula Airport District Board. Can we have, if you have a cell phone, can you please either turn it off or put it on silent? Can we have a roll call, please?
Director Motti,
Present.
Director Gagliardi,
Here.
Director Pick,
Here.
Director Leffel,
Here.
Chair Miller.
Here. Director Gagliani, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does any member of the board have any announcements to make?
John did.
I'm sorry?
Carl, I have
Oh, John, good.
two
Jonathan,
quick
go
things.
ahead.
The first is that in front of the board members is this fiscal year budget report that in April, we had passed a number of different agreements and amendments to our agreements with some of the financial firms that are doing the work to put together the bond agreement for us. Those totaled $400,000, a little bit over $400,000. And I had asked Mark at the time in April if he could put together a report for us that would show how much money we were actually saving by entering into this updated structure and agreement. And the report in front of you shows that annually, with this TIFIA money for the loan, we'd actually be saving as an airport $1.1 million every year. And so we spent $400,000, but we're going to be saving more than that annually. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And again, I wanted to thank Mark and members of his team for all the hard work that they're doing. And so that was the first thing. The second thing was I had a great conversation with Sarah Hunter yesterday, whose name you may recognize from the noise comment log. Sarah is somebody who wants to have documented when she feels there are pilots who are not respecting the noise guidelines and being a good neighbor with regards to touch and goes. She also, though, wanted to say how much she's in support of the airport and what we do here. She herself is a former stewardess. She worked up at Alaska for many years. And she also wanted me to pass along her thanks to members of the operations team, Mark specifically, who she's had many conversations with. And I wanted to thank the staff and your team for just the customer service that you provide. I know it's not always easy, but she wanted to pass that along. So I wanted to extend my thanks to the staff for that work that you do and to Mark specifically. So thank you for that. That's all I got, John.
Okay,
Here.
thank you. I got a very nice compliment for Chris Morello. Apparently you did a talk to a bunch of Cal Berkeley Club. Where was that? But they, the one guy who attended was very appreciative for your talk. He said you had captivated the whole Berkeley grad audience when you spoke. So thank you for that. Tell us a little bit about that. What did you?
We were asked to go to their alumni luncheon out at Pebble Beach at the tennis club, and we were just asked to go and present. So did our presentation that we put together on just the airport itself and the safety enhancement program and just how we do operations, et cetera, and how we were formed. So it was a full group.
He said you got a lot of positive reviews, he said afterward, from people that were there. So thank you for that.
That's awesome.
Okay, any member of the public wishing to make an announcement on something that's not on the agenda right now?
Excuse me, Director Miller, communications staff had two.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
No worries. Just wanted to remind you, we talked about this last week at our finance workshop, that we will be having the terminal groundbreaking on June 6th at 10 a.m. we should have invitations out today. So if not before this meeting is complete. So just wanted to get that on your calendars.
Very good.
How do we dress for that?
Casual, we will
Okay.
be out on the construction site.
Okay.
Closed-toed shoes.
Yeah, all right, no, that, yeah. Will we be wearing hats? Safety?
No, we will not. We won't be in the construction area, so we
Okay.
won't need to put on hard hats.
All right, okay.
If you want it as a visual, I guess we could make that happen.
I kind of like that, but.
Okay, we'll work on it. Whitney's got one as well.
You said there were two items?
Yep.
Okay.
Next one, the one other item that will be taking place on Tuesday is our triannual exercise where we have Monterey Fire practicing for a mass casualty event. I believe it's going to kick off at around 1 o'clock, but that'll be happening on Tuesday, and we've already sent notifications to our tenants as well as our neighbors to the north to expect practice emergency vehicles throughout the area.
What time did you say?
1 o'clock,
This
Will that
coming
inv-
Tuesday?
I'm
the
sorry.
27th, yes.
Would that involve any other group like Guard in the past, National Guard has participated in
So
these?
yes, we will, it is a multi-agency response. I don't know all the players, but yes, there will be multiple. And if any members of the board would like to attend, we'd be able to provide escort for your attendance. This only happens once every 3 years, and it's a pretty exciting event.
Will there be pyrotechnics?
There will be smoke.
Smoke?
Okay, thank you. Public comment. Any member of the public can address the board at this time for 3 minutes. Do we have any member on virtual world? If you want to address the board at this time, raise your hand remotely.
And Mr. Chair, I see no hands.
Okay. Consent agenda. These are items that are routine by nature and come with a recommendation to approve by staff. Does any member of the board wish to pull a item from the consent agenda? Any member of the public want to pull an item from the consent agenda? I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Did you get that, Denise?
Are you ready?
Okay, yes, we are ready.
Director Motti,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Aye.
Director Leffel,
Yes.
Chair Miller.
Yes. Thank you. Regular agenda items, item number 1, resolution 1900, accepting the guaranteed maximum price for our construction project. Chris, who's going to help us with this?
I will be helping you with that this morning. So in front of you, you have the first GMP based on bids from Hensel Phelps, who you approved in February as the professionals, as our CMAC or our construction managers as constructors. So they have been diligently working through all of the plans and specifications, making sure that they understood them all, made sure working with HOK, our architects, to find if there were any gaps or things that weren't quite clear, so they've been really doing all that clarification and went out to bid for the first phase of the construction. The second actually went out this week, so there'll be another GMP coming our way here in the next 6 weeks or so. But this is the first, and it is for the superstructure, so it really is for our substructure components, getting in there, putting in our foundations, putting in our steel, things like, so some of our big ticket items are included in this, as well as the cost for the passenger boarding bridges is included in this as well. So this is the first, as I said, GMP. It is based on the bids that they received. It is a guaranteed price of not to exceed of $39,604,355. I would bring to your
39 million.
39 million.
39 million, I'm sorry. Yep.
I was going to say, I prove it. Prove it. Let's do it real fast.
That's a pretty good deal.
question, the first page of the budget validation estimate that's there, on the bottom, it says the pre-construction, and that is for 328,064. That is, and to the left of that, the total is 902,710. That is what you approved back in February. So when you look at the actual amendment contract language, that number is backed out at the bottom. So that 328, which 064 that you already approved is backed out for the sum of 39,276,291 with the pre-construction that is already approved. So to date, you will have approved to Hensel Phelps $40,179,001. So again, first phase, once this is approved, we will issue a notice to proceed. They are still working through, as I said, the rest of the bid documents and getting next components out. So some of the next ones are electrical, which again is another large item for this building, and plumbing and some of the other inners of the building, so to speak. And then the final one will be more of the finishes and things like that. So that will be the last GMP that we'll get. And those will all be to us by the end of summer, September-ish. We should have everything in hand. On another note, and you'll see that this is, again, gave us the opportunity to submit our grant application, having this in hand. We heard yesterday from our program manager that our ATP money has been moved out of DC to the ADO. So we should be seeing a grant agreement any day. On that
Excellent.
one. So that's a
Good.
good progress on that too.
And how much would that,
That is for federal dollars, $14.2 million.
okay.
So with that, we'd ask you to entertain Resolution 1900. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, we will start at this end of the table. Jonathan, do you have any questions?
I did have just two quick questions. Well, one question, in the finance committee meeting, you had mentioned that you were going to go back to Hensel Phelps and request a list of subs that they were going to be working with for this scope of work. Have they been able to get that list for us?
Fell off my radar. Sorry
Okay.
about that. I will make sure we ask for that.
Not a problem. Thank you for that. Also, not a problem. We're having the mass casualty event right now, actually. The other item was that you had mentioned during finance, we had previously talked about the fees, the professional fees for them, that it had been 5% originally, but that they had lowered it. And I just wanted the rest of the board to be aware of that as well. So if you could speak to that just briefly.
That is correct. So their initial fee for CMAC or for CMAC, which they all have. So they are giving us a guaranteed maximum price, and that means that they will take on that risk.
Yep.
They, of all the costs will come in unless we make some significant changes. This is the cost to do that, and that would, the only time that would change is if we ask for specific changes. So with that risk comes a fee. And yes, in their initial RFP response, their fee structure was 5.1%. Staff were able to work with them and get it down to 4.1%, which was more in line with the rest of the other contractors.
Nice.
So that fee is, and that has been codified in their contract. So that is the fee for this.
Thank you for doing that.
Welcome.
No other questions for me.
Okay, great. Director Leffel.
Now, as my colleague said, we went through this pretty thoroughly, and we did have the good news about the 1% reduction in the fee. So Finance Committee gave a nod to approve this to come to the full board as presented.
Very good. Director Gaglione.
I think you just answered it, but I just want to get further clarification. And that was that we do not have the actual final price, but and I know that was a gating item for a lot of the grant work, I think, and it was Tiffy, certainly for federal. But just to kind of clarify, we can go and go after all of those things now with just this right here. We've got the estimates. We assume that they're going to be within some band.
Okay.
Is that's what you were saying?
At least on the federal side for our grants.
Okay.
On the side for TIFIA, et cetera, not yet.
Okay.
TIFIA, we will need that final price.
Right, because
we'll need all of the other funding in place. And then we can go out for that, for the TIFIA. So there are other steps to come, especially the bond, all of the other components that will go to it based on what Director Amati shared earlier, all of the contracts that we extended
Yeah.
for the plan of finance team. So they're still doing all of their work to put other pieces together.
Okay.
There'll be a number of actions that will come forward based on the plan of finance team pieces. And then once we have all of that in place and we have our final GMP and all our funding in hand, then we can go after the TIFIA. But the TIFIA is the last money in, so we'll need all the other components in place first.
And they're all aware. I mean, we talked about this, I think, in the plan of finance meeting, but TIFIA knows that everything that we're doing, and they're not at any risk of saying, maybe not, or
This is typical, for a project,
Sure.
especially an airport project, and
Yeah.
this is how they've structured it. They want all the other pieces in
Totally.
place first, so.
yeah, they won't be
It
last.
should not be any different from any other projects that they would fund, whether it's a rail project or a road project or an airport project.
Okay.
All simple,
Okay.
all similar.
All right. That was the answer I was looking for. And then the last thing is that Mike threw something out in that meeting that if we need to if we need a throttle on our costs, we could potentially reduce our walkways, our one of our skyways, instead of 5, jet bridges.
That is our last
That's a last.
value engineering component. We have a number of other ones that we're reviewing with Hensel Phelps have identified that HOK needs to look at. and
Okay.
See if they're viable from an architectural and engineering perspective.
Yeah.
So we'll work through all of those first, and a passenger boarding bridge would be our absolute
Okay.
last value engineering that we would employ.
Would that have one of the impacts in here? Because that's a guarantee, that's part of a guaranteed scope. That would be one of the
It is, but we
consequences.
would not spend that money, on that the fifth bridge.
Yeah.
And that money could then go towards something else.
Okay.
In the program, because these will all roll together. So even though they're separate GMPs, it will be one contract price and it will all roll together for a total project.
Okay.
So if we don't spend all the money in GMP one, it can be applied
Okay.
to another portion of the project. And
All
that's
right.
how it's been set up in the contract language.
Okay. All right. Thank you for all that.
Director Pick.
Chair, thank you. My questions have been asked and answered. I really appreciate the diligence and the attention to detail. This is so flippin' exciting. It's kind of makes me giddy. So, and thanks for the finance committee for the detailed work. That's all I have.
Thank you. Well, I've been on the board for coming on 19 years right now. When I first sat on the board, we were talking about a terminal. It's taken us a long time to get here, and it's amazing how fast things are moving now. And it's actually going through. Saving us, the new estimates are over 100 million for the terminal, correct?
At this point, yes.
So a 1% savings will save us over $1 million, right? Yeah, so 1% doesn't sound like a lot. I would lead with that $1 million more than the 1%, because it is real money. So thank you for doing that. That's really all I have.
I would move that we approve resolution number 1900.
Second.
Hey. First by Director Leffel, second by Director Amati. Roll call, please. Oh, wait a second. Public comment, I forgot. Any member of the public wishing to speak on item number 1, resolution 1900? Step forward. Okay, how about in people that are joining us remotely? If you want to talk on the issue, please raise your hand and you'll be recognized.
Mr. Chair, I see no hands.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Director Amati,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Aye.
Director Leffel,
Yes.
Chair Miller.
Yes. Okay, item number 2, an amendment with Kimberly Horn agreement to provide project management. Chris, are you leading us on this one too?
This one and the next one, yes. So these go together with the construction team that you just hired and just told us to get started on. We need project management, so that is what Kimley Horn has been doing for us since the beginning of the safety enhancement program. You know, early on, we knew that we needed some continuity between the components because it has been very complex. This is, I think, our 6th phase of construction here on the project. So Kimley Horn has been with us all along, making sure as we're constructing one and designing another, that we're thinking about the next one and that all of these components marry together so that we haven't missed anything. They've done that extremely well and been invaluable to us as staff to have that continuity from beginning to end on all of our projects. So Kimley Horn, again, will be our program managers. They'll be our eyes and ears day to day out there on the field as they have been right from the beginning in the building and helping manage all of the components, both for the terminal building as well as we've already had approved previous to this phase 8, which is the land side. So they'll be making sure land side and terminal are working together seamlessly. So with that, we would ask you to entertain an amendment to the Kimley Horn contract for the project management for the terminal and not to exceed cost of $2,686,544. Happy to answer any additional questions you might have.
Okay, we'll start down on the other side with Director Pick. Do you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Director Gagliani.
No, none. This is great.
Okay, Director Leffel.
Now, this one is really straightforward, and I think that when we look at what a big project it is, it's really good to have somebody from the very beginning all the way through with the continuity to work with staff on this. So I'm very appreciative that we've been able to work out a deal with them. And the fees are in line with a project of this size. So I have no issue with this. And Finance Committee did give a green light to it.
Okay, very good. Director Amati?
You know, just for the benefit of the rest of the board and for the public, during finance, I had asked about this specific amendment. And, you know, sometimes you'll hire a consultant to do a certain scope of work and they ask for more money because they've burned through it too quickly. That is not this. We are asking them to do additional work. And so there's an additional amendment. And so just wanted to make that clear for the benefit of the public. I am in support of this based on our discussions in finance.
Okay, very good. How long has Kimley Horn been working on projects here in years?
Over 10 years. So
Yeah.
they were the engineers for the RSA project, the Runway Safety Area project. So that was, I think, really the first project that they had done here for us, which was a very successful project.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when we went out for the program management, they knew they were taking them out of themselves, out of the engineering component, because they could not be the engineers for any of our projects. But they really felt very strongly that they could be really helpful to us in managing the program. So over 10 years.
Yeah, I want to say it's been
Probably about 12.
longer than that.
It's
I
over
remember-
17 because they were here when I came.
Yeah, so they've have a long history with us and they know our airport. So yeah, that's good. Okay, public comment. Any member of the public wishing to address the board on this issue? Don't see any. How about in remotely? If you want to address the board, please raise your remote hand. Okay,
And Mr. Chair, I see no hands.
okay, roll call, please.
Now, I move that we approve the
Okay, well,
professional services agreement with Kimley Horn, the amendment to the professional services agreement with Kimley
I was
Horn.
going to bypass all
We'll
that.
keep you honest.
And I'll second them.
Okay, we have a first and second. Now can we have a roll call, please?
Director Amati,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Yes.
Director Leffel,
Yes.
Chair Miller.
Yes. Okay, very good. Let's go with item number 3. Chris, you're helping us with that one too?
Yes, I am, sir. So this one, this is the third for the terminal. So this is for the building itself. This is an amendment to the professional services agreement with HOK, who are the architect of record for the building. So as architect of record, they are required to review all the submittals from the contractor, all of the requests for information from the contractor, and do some of the certifications of the building for making sure it was constructed as designed, especially from the substructure up. So this amendment will allow them to be on site, be part of the weekly construction meetings, and do all that review for the contractor to ensure that the product that is going into the building is in line with the plans and specifications. So with that, I'd ask that you consider this amendment in a not to exceed cost, again, time and materials not to exceed of $2,869,103. Again, happy to answer any questions.
Director Amati, do you have any questions?
No question. We did review this in Finance Committee extensively. And again, just to clarify, this is an amendment because we're adding additional scope, not because they didn't do work that we had previously contracted with them. And I wanted to thank staff for working to get the Siska part of the amendment corrected. So thank you for doing that. No other questions.
Okay, Director Leffel.
Yeah, I think, and I also want to point out to everybody in the staff analysis that the independent fee estimate was actually over what HOK's fee was on this. So they came in under what the third-party experts believed might be possible. So I wholeheartedly support this.
Okay, very good. Director Gaglione.
Yeah, I don't have a direct question on the contract specifically. It's more just kind of on the operations. Like, how is governance going to be maintained or managed with this? This, in my personal experience, this is always the more prickly contractor that comes into those weekly meetings, is because this is the one that tells people you can't do it or it needs to be right. So where do they get to stand? What's their veto power? What's their manager, their governance in that
So
situation?
this is where Kimley Horn comes in.
Okay.
play extremely well, as engineers as well, so they can really review things from an engineering perspective.
Yeah.
and, advocate for us if they believe that it's something that has value. But again, they're not going to override, especially on structural issues, override any decisions that are made by the structural engineer of record. So, but again, we will ask the questions, they will advocate and ensure that we get the right answer when we're looking at value engineering.
Okay. All right. Yeah. This is a tough one right here. So yeah, but I wholeheartedly support it.
Very good. Director Pick.
I just want to thank staff for the hard work getting it in under the independent fee estimate. Fantastic. Fully supportive. That's all I have, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Did Kimberly Horn ever move into the space we had? Okay.
Yes, they're at 2801.
So when we get up and running with this, we will have our contractor and Kimberly Horn pretty much right next door to one another here on the ground. So
That is correct.
that is very efficient, and yeah, it's really clicking together. So I echo the thanks that's already been given to staff. Any member of the public wishing to address the board at this time on this issue? Step forward. Don't see any. Any member of the remote public, if you'd like to speak on this, please raise your hand remotely.
Mr. Chair, I see no hands.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I would move that we approve amendment number 2 to the professional services agreement with HOK.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'm sorry, who was that, Director Pick?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Have a first and second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Director Amati,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Yes.
Director Leffel,
Yes.
Chair Miller.
Yes. Okay. Let's go to item number 4.
Okay, I'll be briefing you on item number 4, and we're asking that you adopt resolution 1901 for an expenditure of funds with Highlight Airfield Services. As a result of our recent Part 139 inspection, we were dinged for noncompliance on our surface painted hold signs. Surface painted hold signs are one of the mechanisms by which we protect the most sensitive area of the airfield, that being the runway. So it's a painted stop sign on the ground that's paired with a painted or with a fixed sign up above. So we are looking to remove and replace some of the surface painted hold signs along Taxiway Alpha and Taxiway Bravo, which are our main taxiways throughout our airfield. This was previously, we'll be looking to use a pot of funds that was previously approved through last year's budget in a capital improvement project for airfield and property maintenance. We have enough funds available to execute this project, and we expect that the project will be under $92,000.
Okay, thank you. It was pointed out to me, we're supposed to go public comment right after staff presentations. Those are just guidelines, so. But I'll open it up to members of the public if you want to address this issue. Step forward, you have 3 minutes. Okay, nobody in house. How about anybody remotely with us? If you want to comment on this, please raise your hand remotely.
And Mr. Chair, I see no hands.
Okay, staff comments. We'll start down. I think we go to Mr. Director Pick at this time.
Thanks, Chair. I have no questions. Thank you, staff.
Director Gagliardi?
Yeah, which stops were they? I mean,
So we have identified about 14 surface painted hold signs.
Yeah.
Because some of our taxiways are wide enough that we require 2 on each.
all right.
So various locations on Alpha and Bravo. There are, I'd say it's everything on Alpha with the exception of the Far West End. As a result of our apron project, we're going to be consolidating 2 taxiways, so
Yeah.
those won't get done because those will be done with the project.
Yeah.
And I believe there are 3 taxiway throats on Taxiway Bravo that are.
And these, I mean, they already exist. This is just, they just were not prominent enough. They just needed new paint or.
So, in a nutshell, we have the standards change over time.
Yeah.
And we have painted over our surface painted hold signs, and you can only do that so much. They begin to bleed through. So it looks like there's multiple numbers there.
Okay.
So ultimately, we're going to correct that by totally obliterating,
Got
and
it.
reapplying,
Okay.
and start the process over.
Okay. I'm glad that they got, I mean, they gave us money to do this, right?
No, this is a capital.
Oh, okay.
Ours, yeah.
Mm. Well, I mean, I'm glad they're pointing it out, but I mean, it's, they've been working, they're functional. I mean, but, okay. That's my only questions. There's more just kind of curiosity.
Thank you. Director Leffel.
So 2 things. I think with all of the increased attention that the public has given on safety of flying, that this is one more thing, that anything we can do to make it
Sure.
any safer for our pilots and the people who are on our airfield, that's a great thing. And I know that we talked about in finance, we also talked about the fact that this would be done to be least intrusive to the neighbors around with any type of noise or lighting or anything, that it should be a pretty quiet operation without a lot of big lights and there's no pounding or
Correct. That is correct.
or anything going on. So, and Several years ago, to save money and to be more efficient, we did hire, we bought a striping machine, and some of our maintenance crew was taught how to do that. But this is over and above what their capabilities are or what we should be expecting from them. So this is a professional group to come in to take off all the old paint and then lay down new. So I totally approve it.
Very good. Director Amati.
Only to say that I had asked how they do this work and found it really cool. She said obliterate, and really, like, they come out with a big truck, high pressure water, and just pass the heck out of it to remove the paint. So I found that pretty cool. And yeah, everything else has already been addressed that we had discussed in finance. So I'm in support of this.
Awesome.
How many years does this go back on how old some of this work has been done?
Some of the RSA projects.
Some with the RSA, some with the taxiway offer rehabilitation, which goes back to 2008, about the same time I came on board. So it's been a bit.
And how long will this last once we do this? What's its lifespan?
So they are cared for and maintained via the machine that Director Leffel pointed out. So they're going to do the application and then we'll do regular touch-up maintenance on it. So it should last as long as it's lasted in the past.
And we do have some of our fly quieting measures and signs on the runway. Those are not being affected. Those will stay in,
Those will not be affected by this work.
but we'll still have those signs present.
Those will remain.
Okay. Well, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve resolution number 1901, authorizing the expenditure funds for airfield painting services.
Motion by Director Leffel. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Director Gagliani seconds. Can we have a roll call, please?
Director Amati,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Yes.
Director Pick,
Yes.
Director Leffel,
Yes.
Chair Miller.
Yes. Okay, we are just cutting through this like a hot knife through butter. Pass to print, item number 5. Who is going to help us on this?
I'll also be briefing you on item number 5.
But it looks like you're going to have help. Go ahead, Whitney.
Sure. Okay, so item number 5 is a pass to print of ordinance number 932, an ordinance of the Board of Directors of the Monterey Peninsula Airport District to designate fire hazard severity zones. So a little bit of background, and I want to preface this by saying I'll give some background, but we also have our partners here from Monterey Fire to answer any of the hard-hitting questions that may be available. The state recently, I believe in March, updated its fire hazard severity zone map, and all the local jurisdictions are required to adopt ordinance within 120 days of the release of that map. So this will be our pass to print or first reading of that ordinance. To give a little bit of background, in your packet, you can see there are 2 maps. So there's a map produced by Monterey Fire that shows the airport district boundary or the airport property boundary, not the district boundary, with an overlay of the fire hazard severity zones. And then there's also included the state's map, which does not have our property boundary on it. So that's the reason that you have 2 maps in your packet. Part of our property is designated as moderate, part of our property is designated as high. And as a precaution, we are to default, per the state, we're to default to the highest zone. So therefore, we are designated high. You'll notice on the map that there's a portion that does not have color, and that is just a factor of the way the science behind the maps that take into account wind direction, topography, ember cast. We don't have any of those things on our west side. So that's why you can see most of the color gradation on the east side of the map. Let's see, what else can I tell you about this? This is a requirement of the state that we adopt this through assembly measure. And I think that's it. There's no direct impact on the budget as a result of this ordinance. However, because of our designations of high and moderate, there are things that we have to do that may require an expenditure. So we do have proposed money in our next fiscal year's budget to kind of deal with those items as they come up. So with that, I guess I'm asking for the pass to Prince, and we can take any questions that the board may have.
Okay. Well, first, we'll see if we have any questions from members of the public. Don't see any internally. How about joining us remotely? If you would like to comment, please raise your hand remotely.
And Mr. Chair, I see no hands.
Okay, let's go to staff comment. We'll start down on my right. Director Amati, do you have any questions?
I did have just a couple of quick questions. What are the types of criteria that determine the difference between a moderate versus high, which are the two zones that we're dealing with? And thank you to our partners from Monterey Fire for being in the room to be able to answer some of these questions.
Justin, just make sure sorry, Division Chief Cooper, please make sure the microphone is on. It should have a digital display.
You hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Good morning. My name is Justin Cooper, Division Chief, Monterey Fire Department, Fire Prevention Division. Thank you to the chair and directors and staff for having me here today to talk about fire hazard severity zones. As far as the fire hazard severity zones for the high, which you have a designation in the airport, and then moderate, like staff has talked about too, it does require certain things in there. Most likely in the high zone, typically for new construction, where you see that taking effect is Chapter 7A. So if you're building something that's new, it has to be basically wildfire resilient. And the state of California has certain provisions there for that zone. It may trigger in the future. We do defensible space inspections of structures and parcels in those areas. So the very high and moderate, we will go out and do some defensible space inspections to make sure that people are complying and not having weeds growing right up to the structure. The nice thing about the airport is you guys have a lot of defensible space. You typically don't have trees growing up next to buildings and stuff like that we deal with typically in other areas of the city. So there are those requirements for defensible space. Right now, in the state responsible areas, there's a lot more stricter requirements than in what we call the local responsible areas. And right now, obviously, this is all in the LRA. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, and if you could just speak to what is it about these areas specifically that makes them high versus moderate?
So the state came out with basically their modeling, and their modeling looked at, like what was talked about, topography, wind direction of prevailing wind, what type of vegetation is growing in the area, and they come out with an embercast model. And that embercast model then dictates where embers will travel and how far they will travel into these zones. And basically that's what you see this model based upon. It's important to note that if we do get a wildfire, wildfires won't stop at a color line on the map. So that embercast zone is predominantly what they came up with to identify the very high and moderate zones. That's what you see before you. Now the area that's unzoned on the map, that doesn't have any color to it, like I said, that doesn't mean that there's no wildfire threat there. A wildfire could still occur in those areas. It's just considered unzoned because it didn't meet their model and forecast.
Got it. And then, obviously we'll be responsible for what falls within the geographic footprint of the airport, but you'll work with our local partners with City of Monterey and County to make sure that the spaces that fall within our neighboring areas are prepared for these types of circumstances with wildfire.
That is correct. We're currently doing that now. Also have in the City of Monterey, we have a CWPP, which is our Community Wildfire Protection Plan. That also dictates where we're working in the different zones and green belt zones to clean up areas where we have a lot of dead fuels. The other thing about this is by adopting the maps via ordinance that we're required to do within 120 days, there will be potentially grant opportunities out there where we can look at grant funding also to help clean up certain areas.
Okay. I don't know if this is a question for you or for staff, but by having a high fire hazard severity zone, does that impact potentially our insurance in any way? Do we know?
So as of right now, insurance agencies are not supposed to be using the state of California's maps for the risk modeling. They're two totally different things. However, we have seen already that insurance agencies are dropping people with insurance in very high fire hazard severity zones unless they do certain measures, which includes replacing, you've seen everything from fencing, replacing decking, vegetation management, clearing vegetation from their house. And so insurance is a real thing in California right now. Insurances are dropping people. Do I foresee that happening in the moderate or high fire hazard severity zone? I can't attest to that, what insurance agencies are going to do, but I know that by adopting the maps and then continually removing dead fuels and making our areas wildfire resilience gives us the best opportunity to make sure we maintain our insurances and all that stuff.
Perfect. And Chair, I apologize. I just have one other question, which is that in the action required for the high hazard zone, it says we have to adopt the fire hazard safety zone into the local ordinance, but that for the moderate, you have to adopt it and then post the maps for public comment. Why is it that you don't have to post the maps for,
You have to do both.
you have to do both?
Yeah.
Okay.
So from March 10th, when we were issued the maps, we actually had 30 days to comply with publicly posting them and also obtaining feedback from the public on the maps of the fire hazard severity zones, and we met that guideline. We were able to get it on our websites and publicly post, so everyone knows about the fire hazard severity zones, and we are taking public comments still. And then obviously the 120 days from that date also to adopt the ordinance.
Perfect. So you all posted it. Does the airport have to post it somewhere on our website as well?
It is posted
It is.
on the website, but it's a link to Monterey's website.
Fantastic. Thank you. Chair, I have no other questions.
Okay, thank you. Director Leffel.
Good morning. Thank you. I see that some of this is across Highway 68. And so is that within or is that Cypress or Monterey Regional, that big red zone out there?
So there's a lot of different parcels out there, and some of it belongs to us and some of it belongs to Cypress, and obviously depending on what you're looking at there, some of it does belong to regional. So we are working with all of our partners in this effort to make sure that we're reducing risk.
And when I drive Highway 68, I see many dead trees and things. And I know the state has started to clear some things, but is there a real concerted effort to lean on the state to kind of clean up along Highway 68 in particular?
I know we're working with CAL FIRE in the state on a lot of the areas. We do have them working in there. I don't know if you noticed, maybe about 3 weeks ago across the other side of Olmsted, we actually had CAL FIRE crews working in there, cleaning up vegetation and taking care of some stuff. It's obviously a lengthy process, especially if you're dealing with environmental sensitive areas and so forth. But they are a great partner with us, and we're in there doing as much work as we can.
So I thought I saw maybe 4 or 6 weeks ago, and Scott, I'll direct to you. Wasn't there something within the legislature that the CEQA was, I'm going to say, lightened if it was a fire hazard so that it was not quite as onerous of the permitting and what you had to go
I
through?
think you're talking about the executive order that the governor issued.
Okay.
And the governor's executive order, you probably know a lot more detail about it, but the governor's executive order essentially said for public agencies that need, vegetation management, he was waiving CEQA to get you to go and do it, to try and prevent an upcoming disastrous fire season. And so and again, this is right after the LA fires. So yeah, and again, you probably know more detail than that, but that's the short version of it is, yeah, it was an executive order that did waive some of the CEQA requirements.
So it might be easier for us to clean up along our borders and things.
Did open up opportunities to bypass certain provisions, although there's a process for that still that you have to follow. and I can get more information. But,
Okay. And I thank you because I know that Director Pick and I both had been approached by the mayor of Delray Oaks to do some cleanup along one of our fence lines that they had cleaned up to the fence line, but buyers don't know that there's a fence there and they shouldn't go past it. So this actually helps us, I think, a lot with what we need to do. So thank you. I'm
Okay,
done.
thank you. Director Gaglione.
I just have on the mapping, does having on-site fire protection, does that at all affect the way that that's drawn, or do they just assume no one has on-site fire and?
So the model is really based upon like a 50-year look at the land also, and the vegetation that's grown in that area is one of the factors. You don't take into account any type of fuel break work that we've done. You don't take into account any development really that's occurred. You don't take into account whether you have a fire station here on property or not. So that modeling comes out with that map set, and that's what the state comes out.
Because the ARF is right in the middle of our high, yeah, I would think that if there was a spark, we could address pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Pick.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, staff. So we covered this pretty well in lease and property. And I really appreciate you answering all the questions, and many have been touched on by my colleagues. What I'd like to emphasize is, I mean, this is only going to get worse. And so I think this look is important. I think that the CEQA streamlining process is critical. I think the budget allocation for fuel reduction is important, in working with our, neighboring jurisdictions, whether it be Mayor Donaldson and Delray Oaks or others, is critical. Having gone to a adjacent neighborhood annual meeting where this was briefed to a residential community, it is impactful. It is going to cost people thousands of dollars to make the changes to their fence lines, the trees, their vegetation, to come into compliance with this, which they need to do for a lot of reasons, insurance being one. So I suspect this will affect us in the future, especially the properties along the Highway 68 corridor in the high fire area, as it's shown here. And so it's important work. Thank you.
Did we make a recommendation?
I think we recommended unanimously and wholeheartedly that we pass to print.
Thank you. So just a couple brief comments. I live in Monterey, and I know my insurance has gone crazy, gone up to almost 6,000 a year. It's incredible. I was shopping around, and I had two companies tell me that they wouldn't consider insuring me because I lived in a high district. I live up on El Caminito del Norte. So they are looking at these maps. So it's got to have some impact on us. Okay. Should have asked you earlier, but anything you want to comment on the upcoming mass casualty that wasn't covered already?
On that, we're looking forward to a successful drill. So thank you for the opportunity. Forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah. I have attended those in the past when we do it. I think, what do we say? We do them every 3 years or?
Correct.
Yeah, and those are mandated.
Correct.
But yeah, if you haven't gone to one, you should.
You could be a body or something.
Yes, they'll put you to work, I'm sure. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve ordinance number 932, fire
Motion.
hazard safety severity zones.
Motion by Director Leffel. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Pick.
Second by Director Pick. Roll call, please.
Director Amati,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Yes.
Director Leffel,
Yes.
Chair Miller.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, guys. Item number 6, Resolution 1902. Who will help us?
Yes, I'm going to ask someone from our team, Brian Roth, one of our project managers, to brief you on this one.
Good morning. It's nice to see you all again. As you know, the district purchased 2801 Monterey Springs Highway in July of 2019. And at that time, it was identified that there was hazardous material that needed to be abated. That abatement was completed in September of last year. And since then, staff's coordinated with pertinent permitting agency, and it's come to the conclusion that any type of replacement of those materials would be acceptable to bring the facility back to a condition for occupancy. The staff invited contractors to provide an estimate for the in-kind replacement of those materials. And 2 contractors came and reviewed the project, and only one, Assamio Incorporated, provided a ROM estimate. The staff recommends that the board approve this ROM estimate and the expenditure provided by Assamio Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $944,836. The ability to use a portion of this is also for terminal office space, terminal construction company office space is also available, which will allow us to reduce the GMP by $300,000.
I'm sorry, by how much?
$300,000.
Okay, thank you.
The projects included in the FY25 budget. There remains $237,000 in the 2801 property repair line item. Project 2025-03, there remains a balance of $108,000. There's also $380,000 of insurance that's available to use towards this project. And then in addition to the GMP reduction of $300,000, this project is essentially funded or could be. Repair of this property is included in those 2 budgets, and all work is expected to be completed within the latter portion of FY2025 and early 2026. These improvements will also provide additional rental space, and we are aware of organizations that are interested in renting the property. With that, the board of the staff recommends the approval of this resolution. If there's any questions, I stand by to answer.
Okay, first we'll open it up to members of the public. Any member of the public wish to make a comment at this time? Here within the boardroom, I don't see anybody. How about remotely? Would you like to address the board on this issue? Please raise your hand remotely.
And Mr. Chair, I see no hands.
Okay, very good. Let's go to the board. Director Pick, why don't you start us off? Any questions?
Thanks, Chair. I think this, we also covered this in leasing property, and I appreciate the staff work. I have no questions.
Okay, very good. Director Gaglione.
Will this be the Kimley Horn office? Is that what this?
No, this will be the office for Hensel Phelps.
Okay.
Kinley
Got it.
Horn is in the main building.
All right.
They-
Okay.
they
Right.
rented
But
the
I
basement.
knew that we were prepping this for one of our contractors. And got it.
That'll save us money.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. I wanted.
Director Leffel.
A couple of things. So the insurance money is the money that we got from the wind damage to the hangars. Is that correct? It's not related to this property, but we're going to use it because we're not replacing the hangar that was destroyed, correct?
Yes, that's 100% correct. This is our insurance proceeds net of our deductible. So, and we have this cash in hand.
Okay. And I mean, I read we got a little bucket from here and a little bucket from there of what we thought would cost last time, and it didn't cost as much. So we've got some money left over. And I think also the nice thing is that Hensel Phelps had in their proposal $300,000 for rent that they would pay to rent office space here to be co-located or located in the area of our airport. So this allows us then to be that landlord, and that's where we're going to get our $300,000 savings on our proposal from them. That's number one. Number two, I believe that there was 5,500 square feet that was left over after they would take some space, and we would take space also for maintenance. Is that correct? Because we're going to move some of our maintenance people in there so that they have sufficient lunchroom and toilet facilities and office space that right now they're pretty cramped and they don't have adequate, I would say, maybe.
That is correct. So there is a portion to the back of this building that's being rented currently by Granite Rock and Vanguard Construction. They'll vacate once the project is done, and we then will put maintenance into that portion of the building. So we'll have some maintenance, maintenance facility, permanent location for them, which in the future will be closer to the terminal, when the terminal is relocated, as well as right now construction space, and then finally rentable, leasable space for other tenants.
Okay. And then 5,500 square feet was left over that could be rented out to members of the public, a firm, an office of something. And we'll make it so that it is up to date with wiring and everything that right now that building is not. So I think that bringing it up to code is really important. So anyway, I fully support this. I think it's a great way to put Hensel Phelps close to the action and close to you all and to Kimley Horn. And I believe that it's a good way to get the building done. And I think also that we did not have to, working with our partner, that this building is in their jurisdiction, that we do not have to pull full permits because we're not changing walls around or doing anything structural. We're just cleaning it up. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Director Amati.
Yeah, I just had one question actually, and Scott, this may be directed to you. I had a member of the public, Ron Cheshire, formerly of one of the electricians unions, reach out to me. He had a question about on page 9, I believe, of the contract with Asonia. Down at the bottom, there's a section related to the Davis-Bacon professional services and how this work would essentially be required to comply with Davis-Bacon prevailing wage, which is the federal law. But he was wondering if this work would also be required to comply with state law regarding prevailing wage, as he brought to my attention that federal law isn't necessarily as up to date with what the state laws are regarding prevailing wage in California.
Generally speaking, and I'm painting with a broad brush here, but generally speaking, because we are a federally funded airport and all of the funds that we obtain come from those federal sources like airlines and all of those regulations that allow us to charge those fees. Generally speaking, we have to comply with Davis-Bacon. Generally speaking, we do not have to comply with the California version of prevailing wage laws. That's not universal. Every project is analyzed specifically. How will that work? But on this one, the determination was, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but the determination was that we only are required to comply with Davis-Bacon on this one.
We will ask them to comply with state prevailing wage.
Okay.
So we will ask them to, but it's not necessarily in
No, it
the,
will be a requirement.
it will be a requirement.
They'll have to register the project in DIR, Department of Industrial Relations, so that project will get registered. They'll have a registration number and they will submit all of their documentation through that requirement.
Is that kind of standard for?
Adopted Construction Code Act as well. So we have 2 layers but all of our contracts have to have this language in it because we are federally obligated. Our federal grant assurances require that this language is included. And so the language that you see under 33 is required to be included in all of our contracts that we have, whether they're federally funded or not. They have to meet these requirements as well. But when we are doing district funded projects over the cost of $5,000, they are state prevailing wage.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And you'll see that language as Chris mentioned, that language under the FAA requirements heading, you'll see that in every contract.
Perfect. But not necessarily the state prevailing wage law, but we will hold them to that anyways. Thank you. That was my only question
Okay.
on behalf of Ron.
Okay, thank you. Great. Can you briefly tell us what hazmats are remaining there and how that would be corrected?
There's two remaining areas that are underneath walls that will not be removed. They were after initial construction, there were walls created offices in the southern larger suite. And we agreed with MPAD during the abatement project that those would not be disturbed. And obviously if in the future there's disturbance, we'll need to abate that, but it's a small area of mastic and tiling that's underneath the stud walls. And so those will not come into play because the wall work will go back in kind and the flooring will abut it. And it's all been encapsulated, so it's completely safe.
Yes. Okay, very good. And just a quick review. When we purchased this with FAA money. It's been a great benefit to this airport. And now to have this construction campus down there, because we'll have Kimley Horn, we'll have our main contractor, Hensel, and then we also have Granite Rock there. So a huge, huge benefit. And the board at one point, we were considering tearing that building down. Thank God we didn't, because now we actually have some use for it. So it really came into play. So I the board appreciate everything staff did to bring this to us. And it's been a real benefit for this airport. Okay, let's entertain a motion here.
I would move that we approve resolution number 1902.
Second.
Okay, we have a first by Director Leffel and a second by Director Pick. Roll call, please.
Director Amati,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Yes.
Director Leffel,
Yes,
and Chair Miller.
Yes. Okay, very good. One item left. Who's resolution 1903? Who's going to help us with that one?
I will be taking that one as well. So resolution 1903, resolution accepting the GMP from auto construction. So not that the safety enhancement program hasn't been complicated enough, that there have been multiple phases of construction. We have multiple phases of contracts and phases in the phases of the contracts. So auto construction is the landside circulation contractor. If you remember, last year FAA had funding available to us for the components of the terminal, but we were not ready for the terminal construction yet. Design wasn't completed, but we had enough design on the circulation components, which will be the parking and the roads around the terminal, getting in and out of the terminal building. So we were able to do that through a CMAR, Construction Managers at Risk. So at that point, Otto came on when it was about 65% design, has worked with HOK to refine the design and get it to a component that could give us guaranteed maximum price, which they did. And this board approved the landside pieces. So then FAA further bifurcated the project and told us that they could give us funding for the circulation and components, but the parking had to come separately. So we have approved the landside. The board has approved the GMP for the landside components previously. Now we're bringing a portion of the parking to you, and it's a portion because it's only what we have available to us through this fiscal year out of the bipartisan infrastructure law airport improvement grants. So those are entitlement grants, not to be confused with airport terminal program grants, totally different. But they're grants that are based on our employments, and they are available to us similar to our AIP entitlements. We have 2 years worth of funds available to us that will support a portion of the parking. We will have 1 more year available to us this next fiscal year that starts federal fiscal year on October 1st.
Yeah.
So we'll ask for the remaining when that becomes available to round out all of our parking pieces. But right now, that's all we have available, and we need to get started. As soon as Granite Rock Vanguard construction are done and off-site, the place where the batch plant is will be the first construction components of long-term parking. So Otto will be able to get started on that there, on that component. But FAA has also programmed this grant. We haven't seen the agreement yet, but they have programmed it. So we should be seeing the grant agreement here in the next 30 days for this component too. So with that, we'd ask you to consider this next phase with Otto of the resolution 1903. We'll bring an amendment back when we have the rest. But for what we have available to us at a not to exceed cost of $5,634,952 to get started on the parking component, the relocated long-term and premium parking for the terminal built complex once we get moving. Again, we have a bi-weekly meeting scheduled with Hensel Phelps and Otto so that they are working collaboratively to know when one's there, when one's not, where one's stopping, where one's starting. All of that's been happening now for the last 6 weeks as well, since we've had Hensel Phelps on. So we have a really good synergy going between all the contractors. And it's, I would say, and I've said it, not necessarily the best way to be constructing to have multiple people out there, but we are making it work and we have really good teams put together and they are really working well together. So really, so ask you to consider resolution 1903 and happy to answer any further questions.
Well, let's see if we have any. First, we'll open it up to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to address us on this issue? Step forward. Don't see anybody. How about if you're with us remotely, please raise your hand remotely.
And Mr. Chair, I see no hands.
Okay. Let's bring it back to the board. Director Amati.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So we discussed this at length in the Finance Committee as well. Thank you for the report. And the only thing that I wanted to just ask about, Director Lapierre had mentioned that, even though there was some dollars in BIL that the current administration was looking to claw back, I believe was the term that he used, that he didn't feel that the AIG money would be impacted by that. And it sounds like that is still the case, and we're anticipating the monies within 30 days to be made available.
About 30, and that is true. And other airports have seen grants recently over the last few weeks out of that pot of dollars. So there has been no clawback or take back on that money.
Perfect. Thank you. I have no other questions and am in support.
Okay, thank you. Director Leffel.
No, we did discuss this pretty thoroughly. And I just give staff a lot of credit because there's a lot of money coming in from a lot of different sources. And in the interim, I know you're still looking for more sources to fill in some gaps that we might have at the end of this. So I really appreciate it. And I think the spreadsheet must be a nightmare. Our PFCs I saw were 281,000. So how are we on PFCs this year?
Yeah. We were just talking about this yesterday.
Well, yeah, we were just talking about, yeah. So one of the directors will see shortly a large check to Granite Rock for the work they're doing, the JV out there. And so long story short, we have about 300+ thousand of PFCs, but we're going to basically spend them this week. So it's going to really be kind of a pay-as-you-go situation where the district will, to the extent that we need money that PFCs would fund, the district will temporarily fund it. Then we'll get the PFCs in and we'll kind of just back and forth.
So it'll come out of our reserves, right?
It'll come
right
out
now.
and then we'll replenish out and
Okay.
replenish. So yes.
And to, once we get the plan of finance together and we get our gap loan, that will help as well too. So that will be important.
Okay.
To me.
Well, I was looking at the numbers from finance and I was looking, we're getting dangerously close. And then I was thinking this will probably be but it'll be the Granite Rock piece. That'll be the end of it, of what we currently have. Okay.
Correct.
Good.
Mark, just for the benefit of the public who may be listening in, could you remind them what the acronym PFC means?
Passenger facility charges that we collect from the airlines. Basically, it's $4.29 per enplanement.
Thank you.
So it's for, let me just add, if you want to clarify, it's on the ticket. So whenever you purchase an airline ticket, it is a fee on your ticket. And it's for if you have 3 stops, the first 2 stops get a portion of that. If you go to a third, then they don't. So we collect based on whether we're the only direct flights, or for a second stop, we get a portion of it. So that's how it's all allocated out to the airlines.
Thank you.
Good reminder of why they need to fly Monterey.
Absolutely.
And you know what? It's one of the few things that you can tell people, it's a pay for service. And so the people who actually fly out of here are helping to improve this facility for the entire community. So, thank you.
Okay, did finance make a recommendation on this?
We did. We approved it to come forward.
Okay, thank you. Director Gaglione.
Yeah, on the land side, will there be anything that they're going to do now so that we can use it until the terminal, the parking? And then that will need to be then taken out and repurposed or redone.
So the parking is definitely our most complex component. And I was just thinking as I drove in this morning, I think it's just about a year that we started that transition from what was the long-term parking,
Right.
which now doesn't even look like it was ever parking because
Yeah.
it's so much lower than it was before, to the current parking lot that we're in right now. There will be another transition phase. So
Okay.
we'll keep what we've got currently. And then once the batch plant is gone, we'll be constructing over there, and then it'll rotate a bit. We'll get in and fix up another component of it. And then eventually we will get into the rest of the short-term which will be premium up close. But we'll wait on that until a lot of the construction for the terminal is done, so that we're not impacting and degrading new parking that we put in. So
That's
it's
kind of what I was
definitely
getting at. Yeah.
a phased component and piece. And it's a large conversation of what we have with the contractors. For
Okay.
sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Pitt.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to highlight for the audience the balance and coordination going on between the finance side of this and the construction side of this. It's really complex, and you guys are doing great work. So that's all I have.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to just recognize the tremendous amount of work that the whole staff is to bring this together. We got hit with some sticker shock. We're over 100 million right now, but the finance plan is unbelievable. Normally, parking lots are not covered with federal money because it's revenue generating, but we made a convincing argument, our staff did. So we do have some coverage from federal money, which is great. When everything's said and done, especially if TIFIA comes to fruition, our cost per employment will be what, $15? Something like that. In comparison to places like LAX that underwent a major construction like we're doing, but only at their much bigger level. But they're over $50 cost per employment. So it's just unbelievable. And I am in awe of what every staff's been able to do to put this together. So thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve.
I would move that we approve resolution number 1903.
Yeah, you've made every motion
Well,
so
I'd
far, so
like to move us
sticking
along.
with the friend there, good. Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second Director Motti.
Okay, first by Director Leffel and a second by Director Amati. Can we have roll call, please?
Director Motti,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Yes.
Director Leffel,
Yes.
Chair Miller.
Yes. Okay,
Can we take 5?
yes, we can. 5 minutes, please, which means we'll be back at 9:35 probably, but
5 minutes.
the time. We are back in open session. The time is 9:27. Thank you. Board reports and acceptance of department report. So let's start off with we'll start down here with Director Pick. Do you have any questions of the department staff reports?
I do not, Chair. Thank you.
Director Gagliani?
No, none.
Director Leffel.
I do. On the lovely piece that we get that has comments on it from the public. The Alaska airline, no toilet paper and water. So I know Alaska Air is on the side, the holding and boarding is on the side where we have inadequate bathroom facilities. And I haven't looked over there, but is there a sign that says additional restrooms on the other side? Because last time I was in there was when we did the, I don't know, Welcome Sun Country, and I don't remember seeing it, but I haven't gone to look.
I'm unsure. This came up once before and I did check back then, but I don't remember.
If there, would you please report back to us? And number two, if there is not, can we get something made this week and put it up there? Because, I mean, I know when that has a couple of flights there and there's just that small, facility. And then maybe when we know that we've got a lot of people scheduled, can we have our cleaning people just check it like every 15 minutes to make sure that things like toilet paper and paper towels, or that if somebody didn't make a big mess, just to keep it. I don't expect them to close it down because that would be more of a nightmare, but at least if they could just keep their eye on it.
We can do.
Okay.
We've gotten these complaints before.
Yes, we have. And then the next thing is CalAm. I know I sent an email about CalAm provided us with the water refill station. And since prior to COVID, there's been like a red light that one TSA guy kept reporting on that we had an issue. But CalAm has offered that if they need to put in a new unit and what's going on. I think, Whitney, you told us there was a part ordered, it was back ordered. That was weeks ago and we've had nothing. And I just keep getting things from CalAm. So they're embarrassed. Their name is on it and I don't blame them. So it's our responsibility. And they were our partner to provide it. We got a lot of good press that we had water refill stations. I think it's one of the things that traveling, particularly the people who travel all the time now, they don't want to go spend on another plastic bottle. They use their refill bottles. And I think if we are going to be sustainable, we need to pay attention to this. So where are we?
So the systems work fine. We have to reset the filter every so often. So that's where the problem lies. We have increased our patrols to make sure that we're not getting the red light. And when we spot the red light, it's time to change the filter and do a reset. So I don't think the problem lies with the equipment. I think we just need to do a better job of observing when the light comes on and make the adjustment.
Okay, so who's responsible? Because
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
so Kevin Tilden is the CalAm president for the state of California. He flies in and out of here all the time. And every time he's down there, I get a text or an email. So, I mean, come on. Who's assigned it?
It is a maintenance and operations function. And again, it's a function of use. So we just have to keep eyes on it. The more people that use it, the more often the filter needs to be changed. So we just have to keep on it. That's the best that I can tell you.
How many uses does one filter go through? I mean, that sounds like, I would be shocked that it would need to be replaced that often.
I don't know exactly how many uses, but when the light comes on, we change it.
So I'm just going to say,
Okay, well,
okay.
Becca, let us regroup internally and we'll get you back a report on what we believe. Let's just talk and see how often they do have to change it. And maybe it is a function of those are old. We've had them 15 years, I think, at least. So, and if you want to share the information from your contact, we are happy to communicate.
I have shared that with Mr. Lapierre.
Okay, we haven't seen it. So if you would like to share it with us, that would be helpful and we will communicate.
Thank you,
with them,
Chris.
But we'll regroup and we'll get back to you.
Good.
Yeah, and if we need a line item in the budget for filters, I think we could prove that before we approve the budget next month. Be happy to do that. That was my my comment on board on staff reports.
Okay, very good. Director Amati.
I also had a couple questions. On that same sheet, there was a complaint about a taxi driver who was listening very loudly to their phone. Do we have a policy or
do.
guidelines?
There is a code of conduct that they sign when they get their permit. So that's just something that we have to address with that operator, and we have. So it was a reminder to the company that he operated with, and just, again, more vigilance on our part in noticing these things and letting them know.
Perfect. I did have another question. So we get the monthly report in the finance deck about the flights per month and, you know, compared to year to date. But I was also looking at the operations report, and on the operations report down at the bottom for, I think it's supposed to be May, it says April, but it says that there's going to be approximately 860 flights or so for April, and which sounded like a lot because, you know, our finance report shows that we have 467 flights for March. So then when I went back and looked at the operations report for March from, I want to say, 2 board meetings previously, that had reported that there was going to be 937 flights. So we must be looking at 2 different numbers here.
Can't just landing. I think he's looking at just one directional. Well, the flight is one direction, so times 2 gives you their numbers.
So this is landings.
Correct. Yeah. So our
There you go.
I think I'm on. So our revenue is driven by landings, not, so when people land, we make money, but when they take off, we don't. So
Got it.
yeah. So there's 2 operations for, you know, hopefully every plane that lands also takes off.
Perfect.
At some point.
Yeah. Sometimes they remain overnight.
Although they do buy fuel.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's it.
Yeah, they do. Yep.
And then the other, I love how thorough our Delray Oaks police report is. I don't know if you all had a chance to look at it, but thank God they escorted that deer away from the AOA fence, as well as the skunk sighting on the runway.
You wouldn't get that with the county sheriff.
I will not be going into that wooded area where the skunk went. And then also, if you haven't had a chance to read it, item 35 on that report is hilarious. I'll just call the other members of the board's attention to it because it is fantastic. Finally, I did want to ask a question. So, Chris, I know we had talked about it. I just kind of started to briefly mention it when we were looking at the budget during the finance report and talking about kind of some of the media spending on social and other advertising dollars, as well as the amount of increased revenue we have to the website when we are sponsors of some of these events like the marathon and so on. And I just wanted to know if we could try to run some numbers internally and see if there's any correlation between increased traffic to the website and increased flights. I know that our sponsorships of the events are not entirely driven by trying to increase traffic to the airport, although that is one of the major considerations for it. But I do want to try to see, is there any correlation between kind of that increased traffic to the website and then, or whether or not really just increases and decreases in flights is just purely a metric of seasons and we see the same patterns season over season, regardless of kind of.
We parcel that out a bit. I think we do sponsorships to get awareness of the airport, and the awareness of the airport is right here. Whether you're, you know, yes, for our residents, but also for traveling in for events. That is one big reason for sponsoring some of the events like the marathon or Pebble Beach Food and Wine. And then some of our sponsorships, for example, with Monterey Football Club are for our locals, and that's a good Salinas, so we really try to look at our sponsorships that we're touching various facets of people that might need to use the airport or want to use the airport or want to travel. So that's one component of it. But I don't know that we can get a metric that would give you that answer, because people coming to the website and when they travel is not, they might be looking at it for this year, but not coming to the marathon for a whole year or something. We don't have any way to know when they're going to travel based on going to visit Carmel's website and connecting to us. So that's a really hard metric to try to figure out. But I would say overall, when you look at our passenger enplanements and the increase that we've seen, that I believe would be your metric to show you that our increased spend on marketing is having an effect. I think that's the number that we would look at, is our overall. And you look even in this year over year for the month, we are up. Yes, the seats are up, but so is the passenger enplanement number up. And that is really, I think, a function of us doing better marketing.
So then to that point, would we be able to look at, for example, air traffic across the country and the trending of air traffic going up, and being able to say, well, air traffic has improved because of, coming back from COVID by, say, I don't know, 30%, but that locally we're up 35%, to be able to show kind of maybe that impact. I guess what I'm trying to get to is that Director Lapierre had mentioned in our finance meeting on the budget that staff are going to need to look for ways to tighten our belts in different areas. And so I'm just wondering if there's a way in which we could try to understand the efficacy of the money that we're spending on advertising and promotions, and whether or not that money is being spent effectively. And I know it's a really hard thing to get to, and I'd just like to try to see if there's any kind of data that we could look at that would maybe show.
So I can make a couple of comments. So, echoing what Chris said, definitely I think it promotes top of mind awareness. And so people thinking of the airport as a choice because they know it's a choice. I think what you're asking is, in industries outside of our industries, ROAS is a common metric, return on ad spend. And so certainly like in industries like e-com, where you say, you spend $1, you get $5 of revenue, that's a 5x ROAS, right? We don't really have a corresponding revenue that we can see uptick based on ad spend and sponsorship and top of mind awareness. So it's a difficult metric to say, but I think if you look at ultimately what's the metric of success here, I think is really capacity and enplanements, and we continue to increase those. So that would be my assessment of what your question is and why it's a little difficult to say that there's a correlating metric.
Right.
And I would add to, I think the other is looking at our leakage study that you would have seen in the marketing is, when we are bringing 5% more here year over year for the month out of the Bay Area airports, that shows that we're our marketing is getting there, because we're capturing back people that are traveling, but they're traveling through us rather than through San Jose or San Francisco. And so that's another metric we can look at. But as Mark said, I don't think we can do a comparison dollar to spend to passenger. I don't think that's something that because of the time that they look, but they're looking to book for 3 months later, 4 months later, 5, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And can't capture that information necessarily, but we have other things that capture data. And maybe we just share that a little bit.
Okay. And then just in terms of when somebody flies into Monterey or when they're flying out? I know we have our cost per enplanement, but that's just a portion, right, of the amount of funding that the airport is going to collect because they were utilizing the airport, right? Aren't there fuel flowage fees and other things? Do we have a rough idea as to kind of how many dollars it is that the airport is collecting because of a person flying in or out?
I think, again, that's, that's
Yeah.
captured in the finance reports, but in different ways. You see the revenue from the concessions, you see the revenue from parking, you see the revenue from TNCs, but you can't assign that to a passenger. It is passengers overall, so the number of passengers for the month, and this is the revenue we're seeing. So it's a compilation of different things, but I don't know that we can say a passenger coming here spends X.
So if we were to remove, for example, the lease amounts for hangars and for property, and were to look at concessions and parking and revenue from TNCs and totaled that all up for the month and divided by the number of passengers that we had in the month, we'd roughly get an idea as to kind of revenue per passenger?
I mean, we could certainly do the math on it. And I think the correlation, I think we could, I mean, I could certainly do that, just do an analysis to see what the correlation is, but I think it's a little, so you'd have to look at the correlation between that and the ad spend and sponsorship and try to see if
No, I wasn't, I was
Yeah,
separating the
yeah.
two at that point,
But-
just
but
to get
def-
an
but def-
idea.
But definitely, we, if you look at the economics here, we have the economics of the commercial airline activity, which in my mind drives parking and it drives rental car activity, it drives concession activities. And then you have obviously the economics of the airport being a landlord. And so we have, our rental streams that we get from leasing out buildings and land under ground leases. So that's all, like Chris said, it's all part and parcel of the finance report, but be happy to put together an analysis for you that we can look at next finance committee.
But I would, caution that it won't capture every passenger. So some passengers are going to come and be picked up by somebody on the curb and that's it. They're not, so we're not going to see, it's not going to capture everything, but.
And I recognize that. I was just trying to get like a
Yeah,
general
It'll be a broad brush.
idea. Chair, I apologize for taking us down this route. That's all I had.
Yeah. Well, as you were talking, I was thinking, about the only thing that would really help us there, and I wouldn't want to pay for a study, but if a college wanted to do that, it's just a survey of people that are in the airport.
Well, it
Would
is
cost,
part of what we'll do that's what you asked us to add to the budget for next year, is the economic impact study.
okay. So
Chair-
they'll do something like that. So that might give us some information there.
Yeah, Chair, if I could just follow up on that line of questioning. So here's my concern is I'm not sure I agree that that exercise is worth the time because it's virtually impossible to attribute causality between the number of passengers we get here and that revenue total divided away from lease revenues divided by ad spend and say that's some kind of objective number and measure. I think it's going to, and where I'm going with this, Jonathan, is small staff working their tails off on really important, complex stuff right now. That is an important thing we ought to try to tease out. I think the economic impact study is a better way to tease it out. And I would just caution on asking staff to do the math, as Mark said. I think it's more than doing the math. It's work. And so I would just flag that for what it's worth.
And we are doing new things here and we have seen an increase. So I think there is a correlation there.
If I might, I
Go ahead.
think that one of the things that we asked staff, I don't know, several years ago, and I think it has paid off, is to advise our airline partners in advance, like months or a year, that we have those big events. And we didn't used to do that. We didn't used to tell them, hey, we've got Big Sur Marathon on this weekend, or we've got NPS graduation, or we have DLI moving a bunch of people, or we did not do that. And we didn't look at when the National Rodeo is in Vegas, which if you look at our parking lot for 10 days before and a couple of days after, we are like 40% pickup trucks. And you can see it because they are all in Vegas for that big event. So I think that we've done a lot better job of working with our partners around and telling them, hey, we think it's going to be. And I remember, I don't know how many years ago, being on a plane coming back and coming from someplace from Phoenix. And I looked around and I was like the only overweight person on that flight. Everybody was svelte and they were all getting ready. They were all coming in to run the marathon. And I was like, okay, we need to tell our airlines that they need to pay more attention to this because these are people flying in from everywhere. And, you know, and so they did. We actually got an extra plane the next year because they had such an influx. So I think we're doing a better job of being more aware of what's going on in the community and how people are moving in and moving out. So, and I think the economic impact will pick up some of this. Yours is a little more detailed, but I could probably show you how to do it if you and I want to do it. I could figure that's the stuff I used to do all day long in order to make loans to people.
Yeah, no, to Director Pick's point, I am not requesting that staff go through any additional exercise at this time. I wanted to bring it up as a concern that I have, that I just don't know that the dollars are an effective use right now, but we'll bring that up when we get there. And Marianne, you and I can work on trying to figure out what the revenue per passenger is for the airport internally. So no ask of the staff at this time.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Okay. Let's go on. If there are no other questions for the staff report, let's talk very briefly about committee reports. Personnel Committee, nothing to report. We may talk a little bit about that in closed session. Local Jurisdiction Liaison, Directors Leffel and Pick, anything to report there?
I don't think so.
I would only say that I was here on Monday for the Airport Land Use Commission, and Mayor Donaldson thanked us for putting a line item in the budget for fire suppression. So he was grateful that we listened and were working with him.
And we are looking into getting that possibly reimbursed with state money or with a grant.
So as Division Chief Cooper mentioned, he's going to let us know when there are grants available, and
Okay.
we'll try to go out for them, but there's no guarantee of reimbursement.
We can hope. Because you're doing great with grants so far. Okay, let's go on to standing committees. Local Agency Formation Commission.
There was no meeting. I did have budget and finance this last week, but there was nothing to report.
Okay, we missed some here, didn't we? Standing committees, I don't see them listed here. So nothing to report in finance. I'll go off memory here.
Yeah, we have nothing more to report.
Okay, what about Air Service, Director Pick? Anything to add to Air Service that we talked about? How about lease?
No, nothing to add on lease.
Okay, I think that's only those are the main ones, right? Help me, because I don't have them written down.
With our meeting, I mean, we're going to recommend that the ordinances be brought back.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but not until, I think, July. We're going to have a discussion. There was a really, I think, a thorough report on kind of why the ordinances are no longer effective, or they've actually never been effective, but they're certainly not effective now, just in the current in the current kind of regime that we have in the laws that we have to operate within. And so council presented a really thorough study of that chronology, and I'm guessing we're going to do that in August. We're going to present that.
I think July is what, yeah, July, we're gonna, because, we got a busy month, this month and next. But we also had 4 members of the public there, 4 or 5 members, so it is being looked at. But you're gonna break it in half, you're gonna take the critical ones up front and then come back with the detailed list.
So the 3 that were covered at Air Services will come back to you in July. And then we'll strategically look at the balance of them, because I don't want to say, my only concern with the phrase you used, would break them in half. It's not going to be close to half.
Okay.
There'll be 3 of them that will come in July. We'll look at the balance of them and make determinations as to which categories, or we'll try and lump them into categories or groups. So all the similar ordinances can be analyzed, and then does the board want to take action on them or not?
Okay. And your plan is to come up with a report that will list each one of these and group them as far as warrants that were being paid and ordinances that may have been created for other things. Okay. Okay, very good. Real quick, local agency formation, anything to report, Director Leffel?
No, there was not. There was no meeting on Monday. It was canceled.
And how's it looking for costs when the budget comes up? Or you guys working on that right now?
It was a 1.5% increase.
Which isn't bad.
No, it was staff, I think, had it at 4%. And we decided, the 3 of us on the committee decided that was too rich. And so they were able to find some savings.
Very good. Regional Taxi Authority, Director Pick.
No meeting.
Transportation, I did attend that remotely and nothing really to add, other than they're still proceeding with the advanced signaling. They will be doing the whole 68 corridor. We still got a few months before that goes into effect, and more to be reported. And we are being sued, the agency is, by the train people or marina,
Handcar people.
the handcart train rail people. Okay, special districts, Director Leffel.
There was no meeting, and actually the statewide conference is going on. It closes at noon today. So I did not go because of the conflict with the board.
We do have the statewide annual conference coming back to Monterey, and that's going to be when, in September?
End of August.
End of August.
Yeah.
Okay. That's always a good one to attend locally when it's here. And Association of Bay Area Governments, Director Leffel.
I attended, and they approved their budget for the year, which is $12,788,000. And that money comes in from federal and state grants. It's an allocation based on how big the Tri-County region is, what the population is, how many roads they have, how many miles of roads. It's a complicated formula. They have a 14 full-time staff now. So most of them are working on grants, and a lot of them are working on the RENA numbers, the regional housing numbers, and also on the municipal transportation planning for the whole area. So they're working out into the year 2050. That is their long-term look at what's going on. So there was a meeting, I think it was Monday or Tuesday. I was signed up to do it, and I got a notice of cancellation because they're so busy working on some of these numbers to get them in for some grant requests that they canceled the second meeting with planning. There was a presentation though on something called the Central Coast Energy Central California Rural Regional Energy Network. And Chris, I'll give you this whole thing on it. But it basically, well, right now, they have money in the pot. It's being collected on on your monthly billing. And this money will pay for if you want to swap out water heaters right now. This is for municipal and districts. So this is for government. It will pay you to reduce your energy costs and to go all electric. So I asked for, and they're supposed to send me the entire presentation, but I would tell you that if we've got some older things here in the building, that we can probably take advantage of this. And right now, because they're trying to get so many people transferred to all electric, it is at no cost to a district or a city to go ahead and do it. So they've got limited funds though in the pot. So it's kind of like we did with electric charging stations and all of that stuff. It's kind of first come, first serve. But that is there. And this was just formed in September of 2024. And it is to go, it's a kind of a pilot until September 2027. So, that was it. That was the main part of it. But I did think we've been pretty good about grabbing some of those one-time or first-time only grant monies before we might be able to find a place to use some of that.
I know some of the new electric water heaters are very efficient and can heat up for a lot lower cost than traditional gas. Okay. Any questions from any member of the public who may be here remotely because they're not here in the chambers? Raise your hand.
And Mr. Chair, I see no hands.
Okay, that will close out public comment and board and staff reports. Closed session. Okay, welcome back. We have adjourned into open session. It is 11:14. It is still the 21st of May, 2025. We concluded closed session and we have nothing to report out of closed session. Where is my
Agenda items?
agenda items? I've had it here somewhere. Oh, I have it right here. Yes, pending request for future agenda items. Scott, when you come back to us in July, we talked a little bit about this at Air Service, but you will have another resolution to codify the voluntary fly quiet conditions if we don't have that already.
That is correct. It will include a
new resolution that will handle voluntary program.
There will be two items. The first one will be a recommendation to repeal the three ordinances, 308, 309, and 310, based on their unconstitutionality. They've been superseded by federal law, or they're ineffective, or a combination of those. And then after that will be a resolution putting in place the voluntary, but preferred, I'll use the term, no turns before, before you're over the freeway, and
fly quieting measures,
the touch and go, and stop and go.
And this will all be in one ordinance. I mean, the resolution, it won't be spread out over several like they did before.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody else have any pending requests? Discuss for future agenda. I guess that's the same thing. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, we also lost two members during closed session. Director Pick and Amadi had to leave. But
At 10:50.
at 10:50. Okay. That's all. Thank you, staff.